Hello and welcome to License to Chill, the Margaritaville Podcast. My name is Ryan.
I'm Patrick. This is your weekly vacation away from whatever you're up to. Put it down. Just put it down and come hang out with us.
Whatever it is, put it down.
Walk away from the work and hang out with us.
Even if you're eating an apple, put it down.
Absolutely, that's
oh
work.
My
and we don't need it.
goodness.
This is a vacation-only podcast. If you're listening to us, you're on vacation. We're so excited. Today's guest is a certifiable legend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be honest. I am from Texas, and you're going to hear my accent come out in this interview.
You got so excited.
I literally felt like I was talking to someone who shaped who I am based on his music and his storytelling. He's just such a staple for every Texan. Our guest today is a country singer-songwriter and a must-have on any country road trip playlist with his many songs about travel, driving, and searching. Starting in 1984, he's recorded over 20 studio albums, and he's well known for his live shows, which he semi-retired from last year. It was an honor to get to speak to him, so please enjoy this conversation with our guest, Mr. Robert Earl Keen. Robert Earl Keen, thank you so much for chatting with us. I'm a Texan myself. I'm from outside of Fort Worth and from Mansfield, so it means a lot to be chatting with you.
Mansfield, Texas.
You know Mansfield?
I got lost in a neighborhood one time there. I was in this neighborhood that had all names of Beatles songs, like Penny Lane
You
and
were
sort
in
of that thing.
Yeah, so you were really close to my house. You were in a neighborhood called Strawberry Fields.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's right. There you go.
It's so bizarre. It's so, I can't believe I'm talking to you about Strawberry Fields right now. But yeah, some developer, Kings Mill is what that area is called. But how did you end up there?
I was looking for somebody. Apparently, I had mistaken Mansfield for Weatherford or something. I don't know what I did.
That's usually how we get most people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it was. Yeah, the Strawberry Fields. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had crossed the street called I Heard the News Today, oh boy. You know,
I heard the News Today, oh Boulevard. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, right.
They haven't built that one
I've
yet.
never heard of this place.
Yeah, I've never even brought it up because
It's just like a subdivision.
Never been relevant, Ryan. There's no reason you would have heard it. Robert Earl Keen was in Strawberry Fields.
You got to keep some good stuff in your back pocket anyway.
Absolutely. I was saving that for the big one. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say you just performed at Bass Performance Hall as well. That's a theater that I went to religiously as a kid who was interested in the arts and the music and everything, out in the middle of Cowtown, this beautiful theater. I wanted to hear how that performance went.
Oh, it was outstanding. I hadn't played in a long time, and it was sold out a couple of months prior to the show. It was in January, and I was kind of like reading this book about if you needed to change your world, you needed to change the game. So I completely did this set where I just came out with just the drummer and me.
No way.
And just played some songs where I was playing lead, which I never do, but I can do a little bit of it.
Wow.
And then brought out the rest of the band one guy at a time and played songs, and it just really worked. It was, it's one of those, Hail Marys that you throw and you hope that somebody's in the end zone.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of guys in the end zone on that one, so it went really well.
That's awesome. So did you play some songs and then each song you would add a new person?
Yeah. I played three or four by myself and told some stories, and then I brought out the drummer and I played three or four songs, and then I started bringing the other guys out one at a time because I wanted them to at least play one song while they were there.
Yeah, get their money's worth.
And what was the mindset like to do a show like that, do something new that you hadn't done before?
Well, my whole thought was, like I said, I've been reading this thing about if you want to change your world, you could, change the game. And so the game was, had been, set up a really cool little set and that I thought really worked. But instead I just thought, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just going to go out by myself and play a few songs and talk to the people. And I talked a lot. When I start talking, I talk a lot. So I talked a lot, and then I brought the drummer out, and I kept on talking. And then I was talking and playing lead at the same time. That really got tricky, but it worked. So, hey, what the heck?
That's incredible. I mean, that's amazing. It's so cool to hear, taking risks after all the stuff you've done, the desire to change the game and change the world. Where do you think that's coming from right now? You're just feeling like changing it up and trying something new?
A lot of it comes from I got some real serious time off, and I kind of went back through some of the things that I'd been doing. I felt like I was like really had gotten rusty and stale, and that if I just kept going that way, everybody else would think I was rusty and stale as well.
Sure.
And so I just decided, well, we'll just make it different. And I've played a couple of more shows since then, and I did the same thing. It was like either like I just brought out like maybe the bass player myself, or I ended the whole show where I played 4 or 5 songs all by myself. So just as much as I'm not going to start dancing, so don't get excited.
Okay, all right,
fair enough.
but within the bounds of music and storytelling and entertainment, I got a few tricks up my sleeve. Not as good as Mansfield, but I got some good ones.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're a city in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of streets named after the Beatles. We got tricks up our sleeve for sure. Well, you look, just to say it, if Robert Earl Keen puts up a ballet show, I'm front row. So I know you're counting out dancing, but if you got to change your world, that's certainly a world to change to.
Yeah, I got some new tights, man.
Okay,
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robert, this new kind of mentality around live shows, are you bringing that into the studio at all? Not necessarily, that specific model, but are you trying to mix it up when you're recording new music?
Yeah, I haven't been in the studio in quite a while. But what I've been thinking is there's a lot of stuff that I hear in other music that I've never really tried out. So the next time that I go to the studio, I've got some real unorthodox ideas about, the kind of music I play. So it's just a matter of, for instance, between now and, when COVID first started back in March of 2020, I have written about, 150 poems, and I was just thinking about setting those to music, but not like a real certain cadence or beat, just, something like kind of cool, like, kind of some of the spoken word stuff like they used to put out on some of those records in the 60s that weren't comedy records, some of those kind of records. So I've got some ideas about that, and then of course I'm always trying to look for something that's has real broad scope as far as setting goes, as far as like the birds and the bees and the water and the lakes and the flowers and all that sort of stuff, where I got lots of setting and not much story. So I got a lot of ideas about that, and I'm gonna. Next time I go in the studio, I've got it written down and stuff, so I'm going to try out some of it, see how it works out, see how it sounds. It's all really pretty experimental, guys, but
that's exciting.
I'm at a point where I like experimental.
I love it too. I'm excited to see what you got going on. I think you've certainly earned it. Not that anyone needs to earn experimentalism. I think it's something that if you feel it, you got to go for it. But I think it would be exciting to see you try something, especially if it's coming from within. Like you got to let it out and see what it is.
Yeah, I found out I'm pretty much not good at anything except for putting words together and a little bit of lead guitar. So that's what I'm going to stick with that. That's the good news. I'm going to stick with that.
You're damn good at it for sure. I mean, I was listening, to a lot of music of yours recently, and I went to school. Just a tiny story of mine. I went to school in Boston, and when I went there, as a Texan, I started a radio show called Y'all, which was 2 Texans in the North. I found another Texas friend, and we did a show on the college radio station, and your cover of Amarillo Highway was one of our theme songs. So that, to me, was the sound of Texas, and I wanted to talk to you about the sound of Texas, how Texas country is so specifically different from country, and you know what it is the second you hear it. When I hear Texas country, I know it's Texas country. I feel like you're one of the foremost voices on that. And I wanted to know where you think the sound of Texas is coming through. Like, is it, I think for you, it's the lyrics I can hear it in, but it's also in the sound. And I wanted to know where you think Texas comes through in all your music.
In my music, it's like I was talking before about expanding my whole range as far as like, doing a lot of sort of natural sort of feel things that don't have a lot of story to it. So the reason I like that idea is because I really almost always start with setting in almost all my songs. I mean, I might be strumming the guitar and things, but I'm probably thinking about an escarpment or some giant hole in the ground, like over in Wink, Texas, or something like that. And so I think in terms of setting first, and that's where most of mine comes from, because I was born in Houston. I grew up in Texas, all over the place, because I had cousins and stuff that had different ranches, and old aunts that had just some funky old house out there, and somewhere like Alpine or something. So I've been all over, and I've got a lot of memories of all these places that I've been to, and I put those in songs, and that's really where I know the stuff the best. I mean, you're supposed to really write about the stuff so I try to stick with that pretty well. I venture out of it quite a bit, but I mean, I always like to start there. So I would say the lyric is where I start. As far as country music and Texas music specifically, where it's coming from, I think it comes from just sort of the joy of living in Texas. That's what I hear in most of the songs, even if they're kind of sad or something. I think it's about the joy, or even missing this state if you're gone or if you've been out there. But I think it's about the joy of Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the other songs for our radio show was Ray Wiley Hubbard's "Screw You." We're from Texas, so that was, which is another piece of energy that I also imbue. But I had a question too about Texas, and when it comes to art, like there are so many incredible artists from Texas, and being in LA for the past 10 or so years, there's a different image of Texas outside of it than inside of it, obviously. And I wanted to know what your theories are on why Texas produces so many incredible artists in so many varying capacities. Like the fact that you and Beyonce come from the same area is like an incredible thing. And there's something magic happening there. I wanted to know if you had any thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, she could quit trying to buy my house in Houston. I'm just not going to sell it to
Is
her.
She trying?
The other, no, I'm kidding.
No, she's moving on to Penny Lane Drive, I heard.
Well, one of the things about Texas is it has a extreme variance in topography. So, you got East Texas with all the pines and all that stuff, and then you got the plains, and you got the Great Plains up there in the Panhandle, and all that great beauty out in, which is just hard to be. It's almost unrivaled out there in the Trans-Pecos, and then there's the coast. So there's a lot of different people living in a lot of different kind of places in the state of Texas, whereas a lot of states don't have that much variety. The other thing is, they started back, I don't want to get too academic on it, but they started back in the turn of the 20th century having all these old dances at some of these big ranches that they had. And some of that Bob Wills stuff came out of all of that, and other light crust doughboys and all that business came out of that. And it's been a combination of the variety of landscape and the amount of music that has been playing in this state for now 130 years.
Yeah. And there's something that I don't know, as someone that is not from Texas, been to Texas, there's something, and I think California shares this too, where there's almost this kind of, call it like mythical element sort of to the state, where people, it's a place where people dream of going. People that don't live in California dream of going to California. People that don't live in Texas dream of going to Texas. I can't think of many other places in the United States quite like it. So there is that draw that a lot of people have. Even if they've never been there, it's somewhere that they want to go. And I feel like you said, Texas country music, I feel like gives you that sort of escapism, at least for a little bit.
There's no doubt. I mean, one of the points to that is, in Austin, Texas, they have, 80 different clubs playing music every night, one way or another. It might even be at a hotel, but it might be at the Continental Club there. And when you speak of, California, you don't not only have a wide variety of music there, but you got Southern California, which is really different than Northern California.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you get a twofer there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Going back a little bit and talking about, kind of mixing things up with your live show and with the studio, I want to talk a little bit about your last release, Western Chill. We're reading that along with that album, you also released a graphic novel with it. Is that correct?
Yeah, graphic novel. So, we're creating a re-release of the whole thing because there was some. It's hard to say, but there were some mechanical difficulties with some different groups that we had to kind of pull back and start over. So it still comes out as that it actually has 2 LPs, a songbook, DVD of the whole thing because it's recorded live and it's filmed live, so it's all it'll match up with whatever you're playing on your record. And then there's the graphic novel, which is this great adventure of Zane being me and my dog Mac being my dog Mac, and we leave College Station and we travel this circuitous route around Texas all the way out to the Trans-Pecos area and come back by Abilene, where Mac has gotten sick because of some of the things that he's heard on the radio. So he has to go to this cowboy poet and get cured, where this cowboy poet can cure anybody of any illness. And so that's kind of the denouement there,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Where did the idea to do this and pair this with the album come from? It's so unique. I can't think of another artist that has paired their release with a comic.
A full original graphic novel too. What a cool story.
Yeah, it's like 81 pages long. It's pretty long.
Yeah, that's not something you just dipped your toes into.
And it starts out in sepia toned when they reach the outskirts of College Station, Texas. It all turns into color. So the rest of the book is color. Anyway, there were several voices on this. We were just talking about how we could do something really unique, and I think my daughter Clara, whom I do the Americana podcast with, mentioned that she really liked some of the graphic novels that she'd seen out that had to do with music, because she's a real music fan just all across the board. So she mentioned it, and then some other my wife mentioned it somehow, and then it just kind of got where it got rolling, and we thought, well, why the hell not? So
Totally.
That's what we did. We did that. Added the songbook and the DVD and all that. So it's quite a package. It's a big box. It's a beautiful box. It's all wrapped up. It has the entire constellation of the night sky on it.
Wow.
So cool.
That is so cool. Robert, we here at the Margaritaville Podcast, we love hearing Jimmy Buffett stories, and I just want to see if you had any that you would be willing to share.
Yeah, well, I opened for him one time at Minute Maid Park in Houston. The interesting story about that was the morning of, I went on this weird rat patrol kind of drive out in the desert in one of those kind of caged vehicles.
Yeah.
And went for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And when I got up there on stage, I was more red than one of the lobsters that Jimmy sang about. I was just cried. It was embarrassing. I could hardly hold my guitar because it would hurt every time I
You know what? I would say if there's any artist that it's appropriate to be sunburned for to open, it's Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think you were in uniform. That's all it was.
That's right.
I also saw Jimmy early on, probably 1975, at Gillies in Houston. And it was, it was just, this big old honky tonk, and everybody's just dancing.
Yeah.
Dancing to Jimmy Buffett. There's two-stepping the Jimmy Buffett tunes. It was pretty funny.
That's so
but,
amazing.
I mean, it wasn't funny at the time because it wasn't all that out of place. That's all kind of stuff that happened around there all the time.
Fit right in the moment.
That's right.
This is a podcast. We talk a lot about travel and vacation as well. And I wanted to know, you write so much about traveling and being on the road. I wanted to know kind of where that inspiration comes from, and also if that's a driving hazard that you get ideas while you're driving. Do you have to pull over? Do you use your phone? Is it risky?
If I had to pull over, I'd have to pull over every 5 minutes. I mean, I get more. I get more ideas in the car, and they just like the first time I ever make a real stop, I open up the door and they just get sucked out of the car and have to start all over. You know,
No.
It's,
You've written the Great American Novel in your car, and it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I could keep going, but it's just like, I don't know, but I'm never out of really ideas, so I don't ever worry about it too much. But I do have to say, I do my best thinking in driving around in my car, so I get quite a few ideas. I was actually working on a song today. I forgot what it's called because it went out the window when I opened the window.
Damn. Yeah. It'll come back. The wind will take it back.
Yeah.
It'll come back. No problem.
It'll come back. Yeah.
You're not concerned about losing ideas or having ideas, but you kind of let them come in and out. So when you're on vacation and taking breaks, you have ideas, but you kind of let them pass. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, man. A few years ago, I had this great idea. It was going to be this opera that I thought of that I was going to, and I'd worked it up where there was, several songs and some characters and stuff, but now all I can remember is the title of it. It was called Mi Hamburguesa. And it was like, like this big operatic voice, Mi Hamburguesa, and unfortunately I lost the rest of it, so I don't know where that one went. But
I don't think you need the rest of it.
I'm sure it would have been a great big hit, and I'd be, just sharing a night with Hamilton on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Oh, man, that's cool.
You'd be watching at the Prague Opera House by now. Hamburguesa gets 12 encore bows. Everyone in their suits and nice dresses and the pearl earrings. Yeah, just loving it.
Yeah, and it'd come on a site called No Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
that's right. There you go.
Right tomatoes.
Robert, in talking about vacationing, escapism, taking breaks, you no longer tour anymore. You announced that you were retiring. I'm curious, as a musician that's sort of been in that world for so long, what was that thought process like, and how has it been since you decided to take a step back?
Well, it was about feeling like I didn't want to be one of those acts that just kept, limping along and either being burnt out or actually just not being able, physically or mentally able to really put on a decent show. I really basically wanted to go out somewhat the same way I came in. Yeah. And the only way I was ever to get into that space as far as like actually saying I was going to do that had to be somewhere along the lines of just instead of thinking of all the things I had to get done before I could do that, is just picking a date. I just picked a date and said, I'm going to be done by this time, and whatever happens, happens. So we toured for like another almost a year. And then on September 4th of 2022, that was the last date we did as a touring act. That being said, I've done some fundraisers, I've done some cameos, I've done a few things like that Bass Hall that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And but there's no bus, there's no band on a regular basis. And I'm just, I pick up the pieces as they go. And I do try to keep my hand in just where I like to, enjoy playing. Because, that's, I don't know, like I said before, the only thing I'm good at is like, putting some words together. So, I can do that pretty well on stage as well. So I get up there and get to, continue to enjoy some of it and then step back again.
You're such a natural storyteller. Do you sometimes feel the urge, now that you don't have as many places, do you have an urge to be like, I got to tell some stories, or are you cool holding on to the stories until there's a person to hear them? Or is there somebody getting the brunt of your stories?
I have to say, a lot of that stuff is extemporaneous.
Yeah? Wow, that's awesome.
I'm just shooting from the hip, and I find if I tell one too many times, I kind of wear it out. So I'm really always looking for some other thread to start pulling on where I can, take the whole Afghan down at the same time.
In our research, we also noticed that you've been called by many people. This is the Jimmy Buffett a podcast, Margaritaville Podcast. You have been called the Jimmy Buffett of Christmas. I don't know if you're aware of that title.
No.
We are aware. We have a Google alert.
Yeah, I thought I was the reincarnation of Scrooge, maybe, but not the Jimmy Buffett.
It was, I believe it was some Dallas-based periodical that said that you were the Jimmy Buffett of Christmas. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that. They talk about your Christmas show and a song in particular. Did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll give you a rundown on that. So, I wrote that song in '94, and I played it, and it was, people liked it immediately, and they, it was one of those ones that, you actually wrote a song and like, hey, everybody responded. What an amazing thing. And all of a sudden, I played it for a few years around Christmas time, and it was, but I found that a lot of people would just come to the show just for that song, and they'd be talking and drinking and having big time, and then when we play that song, they'll all be singing along, and then we play something else they could care less, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing, So I thought, well, I need to partner this with a real Christmas show. So I started putting together a Christmas show where some of the band dressed up and maybe ugly sweaters or something. I did have Scrooge, a really good actor, come out and do a piece from, the Christmas Carol as Scrooge. That was really exciting. I always liked that part. But after that, it just got bigger and bigger. And when I say bigger and bigger, I got 2 semi-truck trailers full of Christmas crap from years of making this show, building this show. And that includes a half a dozen mannequins, like scantily dressed mannequins, an entire set of Christmas trees that are over 14 feet high, and then a 20-foot high rocket that comes together in pieces, when you put it together. So I've got all kinds of stuff, and not including tinsel and lights and things that blow up things and other things that just blow up. And it was a lot of fun. So I did the full blown all in set design part of Christmas for about 14 years.
Wow.
And that turned out to be really good, but we had to work really hard. We started at the end of November, and we'd play every day through the 22nd of November, and then we'd start back on the 26th of December. We just play every day till the 22nd of December, and then on the 26th of December we would play all the way up to the 30th of December, and then we wouldn't play New Year's Eve, because I haven't played that for years and years, because it's for amateurs, right? Amateur night out there.
Right.
So
that's right.
We don't want to do that. I did have a short joke about that. So this guy, he's got a great band coming on a New Year's Eve, and all of a sudden, last minute, they cancel. So he calls all around, and he finally finds this banjo player and this harmonica player, And so these guys get up and play, and lo and behold, people love them, man. They're really great. So the guy that's running the venue goes and says, man, everybody loved you. Can I go ahead and book you for next year? And they said, yeah, can we leave our shit here?
That's great.
That's a good joke.
Okay, so that's it. Anyway, 14 years of Christmas show, and I would say some of it was very Jimmy Buffett-like, in that people came year after year. Sometimes they didn't even come to any of my other shows. They just came to the Christmas show, and they brought their kids and their friends and their family and that whole deal,
Yeah.
And you could just fill up buses with these people, and they were really, really happy. And it was all based around that Christmas song, really. And it was quite popular. Got a lot of guests, come up and sing songs, and we did all kinds of stuff as far as having guests on that show. And the show lasted, 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. It lasted a long time, but everybody stayed, and we did it all over the country.
Wow. That's amazing. Any thoughts about reviving it as a one-off?
I think about it sometimes, but man, carrying around all those set pieces,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
that was a battle.
That's a lot.
We had to, I'm not like one of those, like I got 5 buses and 4 trucks. I just had 1 bus, and then I'd have to go rent a truck for that thing.
Oh, my
and that
God.
was enough of trouble as far as I'm concerned. Because you know what? When your truck driver quits, and all of a sudden you're driving a Penske truck, you think about long and hard about retiring.
I know.
Uh-huh.
I believe it. They really show you how valuable they are when they quit.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you doing now with your time that you have retired from touring? What are you filling that time with these days?
Well, there'll be some shows in the summer that we're planning on, and like I said, we're doing a relaunch of Western Chill. Some of the shows during the summer will be like this. We're going to play, a handful of songs from Western Chill. And let me say, Western Chill is also a band-inclusive project. So the band brought their own songs. They sing their own songs.
Cool.
I think I did about 8 songs, and they did about 6 or something like that. So we'll do we'll do a handful of songs from Western Chill, and then we're going to do several albums front to back, because I've never done that. And I thought, that's something that I understand sometimes, fans really like to hear a record all the way from the front to the back. So we're doing some of the records. We're definitely doing Picnic and Farm Fresh Onions front to back, and we might pull in another one, depending on how many people are, wanting to see another one or come to both of those shows and want to come see another one. So so that kind of thing is in the wings right now. So that'll be, some select dates, mostly in the Southeast, I think. There's a Ryman date for sure. There's an Atlanta date. And there's a date, there's a couple of dates in Texas as well. So there's a handful of dates out there that we're doing with Western Chill and these records back to back. And that's been something that we're working on. We also are doing when we quit in 2022 on Labor Day, it was Labor Day, September the 4th, we had a thing called Fan Appreciation Day, where you just had to sign up for a lottery ticket to go to this place called Florist Country Store, which holds about 2,500 people, comfortably. And we had thousands of people wanting to go to this free show. So it's free if you just could get a lottery ticket. So it was so popular that last year we just went ahead and did another Fan Appreciation Day. So this year we're doing our 3rd Fan Appreciation Day on Labor Day at Florist Country Store, which is just outside of San Antonio in Helotes, Texas. So that's another thing we're getting ready for. And I would say the other thing is, like I said, I'm working on some of these songs and these poems and stuff to, go in the studio and see what I can make out of them.
That's awesome. Yeah. And do you have a new single coming out May 10th as well?
Yeah. This is one that comes from Western Chill, and it's called
Great.
Let's Valet.
Great.
And it's a really cool song. Yeah, it's a really cool song. It's kind of a swing song, but it's like a really, sexy, romantic swing song. It's really cool.
Fun. That's super fun. And when you get in that studio, you're going to turn some of this poetry into music. Do you? I read a little bit. You were saying in some interview that you really don't know how a song's going to come out, and you don't know how it's going to be received.
Yeah.
You just write how you write it. Is that the same mentality you're going in? You don't think about the after. You just think about the during, what you're making, how you feel about it.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things that has happened in my career is I was always afraid early on to go in the studio, and then I would say, I don't know, about 15 years ago or so, it just dawned on me like that the studio is just as great a creative space as your pen or your coloring book or whatever you're doing creatively. And I got way into being creative in the studio. So I'm really looking forward to it in that way, because some of these ideas lend a lot of space for some creativity. So I'm just going to start at zero and keep going up.
Hell yeah. Well, we're excited to watch that. Robert, thank you so much for talking to us. We had such a good time chatting with you, and we look forward to seeing everything.
I really enjoyed it.
That was really
that's
fun.
been great, and I hope to see you sometime or run into you sometime. I'll be at the Americana. I'll be on some kind of panel at the Americana Fest in September.
No way!
I remember that as well. So.
We'd love to come out. We'll connect because we'd love to hang out with you. We can just meet at we can meet in Strawberry Fields.
There you go. You're there all the time,
There
right?
you go.
We'll find ourselves there regardless, whether we want to be there or not. That's how Strawberry Fields works.
Yes, sir. Yeah, get by with a little help from our friends.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Robert, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Patrick, Robert Earl Keen, what a cool... I've never heard... We didn't see him. We were on a Zoom. We didn't see him on the Zoom. He had his video off. But I think I could tell exactly what he was doing just based on the way he was talking.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was sitting back in a lounge chair, feet up, just chilling.
What a cool guy, man. I truly cannot believe I got to speak to him. He's such a legend. His music means so much to me, and it was awesome. And he's the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
We got to go to Americana Fest. We're hanging out with him. We got to. Ryan, we like to do something on this show every week. We say what we did that was so Margaritaville. So, Ryan, I got to know what you did this week that was Margaritaville.
This week, I am going on a little getaway. I'm not calling it a vacation.
Okay.
It's an extended weekend trip.
And that's very Margaritaville.
It's very Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And I'm just bringing a duffel bag.
Whoa!
No suitcase.
No suitcase.
I'm going to Florida. You don't need long shirts and jackets or anything like that. No, shorts, t-shirt, flip-flops. I'm good to go. That's it.
You're packing like Jimmy Buffett style.
Exactly.
Packing the essentials and you're wearing the hits.
Yeah, except I'm not flying my own plane there.
Well, yeah. And I'm glad you're not because you're not trained.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. But how about you? What are you doing that's Margaritaville?
Ryan, I'll tell you something I did this weekend. I was on a little weekend trip. I went to a music festival.
Oh, I can't tell.
I know. Can you believe it? I wonder where my voice went. I left it in the desert. But I was at this festival. I had a great time, and we were staying at a house with a pool, and there was a lounge chair that was built to be kind of lightly submerged in the water.
I love those.
And when I tell you that I took an hour nap on a lounge chair in the sun, it might be one of the most Margaritaville things I've ever done. I've never let myself sleep like that. People were taking pictures of me sleeping. I was completely in the right mind. I was completely sober. Passed out of my mind because I was so relaxed.
Yeah.
And people constantly were shifting the umbrella so that I wouldn't be in the sun. And they took it as a kind of it takes a village to keep this person napping.
I love when people respect other people napping because so often it's the exact opposite.
Honestly, that's how I knew I've had friends for life. Yeah. They weren't waking me up. They were quietly shifting the umbrella so I wouldn't get sunburned.
Yes, that's so kind.
Couldn't have been happier.
Wow.
What a perfect day.
Amazing.
But Ryan, wouldn't you know it's time to check out?
Well, until next time, I am Ryan Middledorf.
I'm Patrick McDonald. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week. License to Chill is the official Margaritaville podcast, produced by Tamara Baldanza-Decker, Courtney Watkins, and Kirsten Winquest. Art by Tom Boyd. Music by Aaron McAnally and Mick Utley. Additional resources provided by Coleman Sisson. New episodes are released every Monday. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.